And here we go. Let's just get straight into it. We have a violent fight between Jiri Prochazka and Carlos Olberg, and a headliner that actually might see a finish. All of this year, the headline fights to a major UFC card has ended in a decision, and the last time we had a finish for a main fight on a major UFC card was way back in October of last year when Alex knocked out Magomed for the belt, and ironically, Jiri was also on that card and came back against Khalil to put himself in this position to fight for the title. This fight is a guaranteed knockout, or at the very least a guaranteed finish. So who's going to be the one on the canvas and who's going to be the one on top with the title? Both these guys are high finish strikers, but in vastly different ways. Jiri's pace is a meme at this point. He typically presses the action forward no matter what, but in those first 1 or 2 rounds, he has very little effective activity and he gets caught a lot, and it's almost like he's purposely giving his opponents these openings in the opening rounds. But in his interview with Kamaru and Henry on the Khalil fight, he gives us an insight on his mentality and why he fights the way he fights, saying that he never actually felt like he was down in his fight with Khalil. He truly believes that despite quote-unquote losing those first 2 rounds, he always felt like he was in control and was going to get the finish, which is pretty much his mindset for all his fights, purposely taking risks to find openings while gassing out his opponent before actually seeking the finish. He was kind of getting worked by Rakic before finding this opening with a big right hand and seeking that finish right then and there, ending the fight. He also lost the first 2 rounds with Glover and looked like he was about to get finished in the 5th round before finding that last second rear naked choke and becoming champion. The weird thing about Jiri's pace is that he's constantly on the hunt for an opening and will take a lot of risks and get punished for trying to find those openings, which leads to his opponents clearly taking the first 1 or 2 rounds. He's like Piotr Jan if he was trying to download data and find openings in the first couple of rounds, but willingly taking punishment to do so. But if you don't kill Jiri in those rounds, he will find those openings, and he will finish the fight as soon as he takes it, as he's literally shown us in every single one of his wins. Which is also kind of why he can never beat a guy like Alex Pereira, who will starch him with 1 punch or 1 kick before Jiri has the opportunity to find the opening to finish the fight. If Jiri's activity and pace look like this, Carlos Olberg's would look like this. Constant, controlled offense and activity. Carlos Olberg is a product of city kickboxing who, like a prime Izzy and Volk, loves to stick behind a jab and a heavy low kick and pretty much controls the pace of the fight until a finish is naturally found or it leads to a decision win. Carlos Olberg doesn't typically get into shootouts or wars, but has the composure to handle them and find the counter and even finish. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Ulberg is going to react to that inevitable breaking point where Jiri will turn up the pace and offense to 1,000. The biggest question here is if Carlos Olberg will be able to keep order and control the pace for all 5 rounds, or will Jiri Prochazka break through and just cause chaos? One of Ulberg's biggest tools in this fight to keep things under control and not let chaos ensue is 100% going to be that low kick. Jiri Prochazka does not check low kicks at all. Like, at all. When he's in that hunt mode in those beginning rounds, all he wants to do is find that opening, and he seriously does not care about the low kick. Alex, of course, was eating up that leg in their fights, but I think the worst example of this was when Jiri fought Alexander Rakic. Rakic was spamming that low kick to the point where it clearly debilitated Jiri and forced him to switch stances early. Jiri just tanks these low kicks, and what's even worse is that he has this very wide karate stance where he puts a lot of weight forward on that lead leg and almost looks like he's about to spring forward like a sprinter, which practically makes it impossible for him to move that forward leg out of the way, and it hurts a lot more because he's putting pretty much everything onto that lead leg. For Ulberg, that's money in the first 1, 2, or even 3 rounds when Jiri is trying to download data. Jiri is not going to check those low kicks, and it's going to be very hard for Jiri to spring forward off that lead leg in the later rounds, like the 3rd or 4th, when he's trying to put up the pace and seek that finish. Another tool that's going to work very well for Ulberg and be very bad for Jiri is Ulberg's jab. Carlos Olberg easily has the best jab in the division and probably one of the best jabs on the entire roster. He pretty much won this fight against Jung Dan-un solely behind the jab alone and bloodied him before getting the last second takedown and rear naked, and pretty much also won his fight against Volkan Ozdemir behind a very stiff jab. Carlos Olberg's jab is so stiff, so quick, and so well timed. And what also doesn't help is that he sometimes throws 2 or 3 jabs at a time in quick succession, and because of this, pretty much none of his opponents have been able to time that jab and end up looking like a slow punching bag, which screams danger for Jiri, someone who has at one point eaten jabs like this. Again, Jiri is the type of guy to eat all these shots in the pursuit of the finish. But man, if Carlos Olberg constantly lays down these jabs along with the low kicks, Jiri might be too hurt and his leg might be too compromised to get the finish. And that lead hand doesn't just produce a nice jab, but it also produces a very fast and dangerous left hook. He doesn't really have a heavy left hook like Alex, but he more so has a quick and precise left hook that can surprisingly put guys out. Best example of how good Ulberg's lead hand is when he took out Negumereanu with a quick jab into a pinpoint left hook that sent him down. Or look at this precise left hook on Potiera. It doesn't look heavy, but it was just right on the temple, taking his legs out and taking him out for good as he came in. This check left hook is a punch Carlos Olberg loves because he's so comfortable on the back foot. He often is okay with gliding on the fence, fighting on the back foot, and finding a check left hook and fading out of range, where this time I think is going to be very dangerous for Carlos Olberg. Jiri Prochazka might be the best finisher we've ever seen once he gets his opponents to the fence. He's the master of pressure and cutting off the octagon and keeping his opponents where he wants them and unloading the craziest shit you've ever seen to end a fight right then and there. If Carlos Olberg gets too comfortable and falls back on his tendency to fall back to his back foot, gliding the fence laterally, I don't know if he's going to be quick enough or good enough to evade the offense Jiri is going to dish out when he decides to actually fight. What I think is going to happen is Ulberg is going to fall back to his tendency to find the check left hook, fade left, and Jiri's going to chase Ulberg to keep him on the fence. I can even see Jiri being capable of what Kevin Vallejos did to Giga Chikadze. Vallejos knew that Giga was fading left, hands down, like the sequence is over, but Vallejos threw a nasty, devastating spinning back fist to send Giga down. Imagine what Jiri can do to Ulberg if he also finds this opening. I can see Ulberg fading to his left after Jiri crashes into him and Jiri doing what Jiri does best, catching him with a spinning elbow, spinning back fist, or doing something else crazy to catch Ulberg fading left, hands down, like the offense is over. And the one time someone was able to keep Ulberg on the fence and create chaos, it was Kennedy Nzechukwu who was able to find the right hand on the chin to send Ulberg down. Granted, this was Ulberg's debut, and he has since then learned a lot and gotten better and doesn't get into these firefights on the fence, but I also think a guy like Jiri, a master of pressure and chaos, will be able to keep Ulberg to the fence regardless of how much he has improved. So given these openings and method of victories for both fighters, how will this fight realistically play out? I think it's going to be a classic Jiri performance. I think we're going to see Jiri eat 1,000 jabs from Carlos Olberg, who has probably the best jab in the division, along with a very quick left hook. And then he's also not going to check the low kicks, the heavy low kicks that's going to come from Carlos Olberg. I think this is going to happen for the first, again, 2, 3, maybe even 4 rounds before Jiri decides to keep the pressure on Carlos Olberg. Again, Olberg is very comfortable moving back against the fence and trying to glide, while Jiri Prochazka is going to keep him there and launch a crazy offense that I don't think Carlos Olberg is prepared for. Again, he is very good at a very controlled pace, and Jiri is practically impossible to control. The only person that has been able to kill Jiri Prochazka before he kills them is Alex Pereira, and I don't think Carlos Olberg has that one-hit kill shot that Alex Pereira does to control Jiri Prochazka. So again, I just don't think Carlos Olberg is going to be able to keep this under his terms. Jiri Prochazka is going to eventually break through. Chaos is going to ensue, and in that sequence, inevitable sequence where they just start trading, Jiri Prochazka is going to get it done. Expect a Jiri KO after a Carlos Olberg masterclass in the 3rd or 4th round. But anyways, what do you guys think about this exciting matchup? Will my GOAT, Jiri Prochazka, become champion again by creating chaos and finding that opening? Or will Carlos Olberg continue to just keep control the entire fight, maybe go to a decision win, or find a late finish in maybe the 4th or 5th round? But anyways, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this insane fight tomorrow. I really want to see my GOAT win, but we'll see. It's going to be a very fun fight and hopefully end the drought in the main card fights since October. But again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.